In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 128 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I am doing great. You and I just got done looking at some Rex West merchandise
Yeah.
that somebody sent in the mail.
It was pretty cool.
It was cool. We'll talk about it more in mailbag, so
Yeah.
you definitely don't want to miss that.
Good old Rex.
There's a mention of assless chaps. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Still working on the whole Rex West.
Yeah, I know it hasn't taken off like you wanted it to. It's pretty big here locally.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I see it advertised on bus billboards and stuff like that. It just hasn't taken off nationally to where you can really book some of those big gigs across the country.
The 2018 calendar didn't really go.
That didn't go off the way you thought.
We're halfway through the year. Still have them all.
Well, maybe part of the problem is we're halfway through 2019.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have labeled them 2019 calendars.
That's the problem.
Instead of trying to sell 2018 calendars in 2019.
I thought everybody would just cross out the 8, put a 9, and just move everything forward.
Change all the months.
Yeah, just move everything forward a year.
day.
Forward a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Just rotate.
But other than that, you're doing good.
Yeah, I'm good, man.
I am too. I am excited about this weekend.
Are you?
Well, we've got a lot of stuff coming out.
Oh, I thought you meant outside of this that you were excited about this weekend. I'm like, what do you got going on,
I like
man?
the weekend in general, but...
You going to get out of your sweatpants? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not wearing sweatpants right now.
That's the other problem.
I'm wearing shorts.
Okay.
On Saturday,
Yeah.
we have something brand new. We hinted about it. We talked about it. It is you and I doing what is essentially a first run of what we think could be a movie podcast on the movie Bernie.
Yeah.
And it's coming out on Patreon this Saturday night.
It will.
So I'm excited about that. It just so happens this episode is about Bernie.
So actually, it came out. By the time you listen to this, it's out.
Oh, yeah. What am I thinking?
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for correct. No, I appreciate that.
That's why I'm here.
You know, obviously we tape early.
Yeah.
But we've already taped the
Right.
Patreon episode. We're now taping the episode that's going to come out the day after. You're right. And then on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, we're talking about the Cowden family murders. And this one's interesting. It's mysterious. We're going to Oregon. We're going back to 1974.
Oregon.
Or Oregon,
Yeah.
as Gibby says it. You know, this is essentially a family that went out camping
Yeah.
and went missing.
So they eventually are found murdered, and there's some twists and some turns, and we look at a suspect, and there's some interesting things that happen with the suspect as well. So,
Yeah, parts of the investigation.
Sure.
We'll get into all of that. All right, Gibbs, we have our Patreon shout-outs.
Oh.
Let's do those.
like that.
Janice Robinette,
Hey, Robinette.
Teresa Bickler,
Hey, thanks, Teresa.
Jamie White,
Hey, Jamie.
Leah,
Just Leah.
Anna Anderson,
Hey, AA.
Heather Thibodeau,
Ooh, the tip of dough.
Ashley Reynolds,
Hey, Ashley.
Jenny Hansen. What are you laughing about?
The way I said, hey, Ashley.
Oh, well,
It's kind of creepy.
To me,
Sorry.
I'm just so used to it. It doesn't even faze me.
Yeah.
But it cracks you up.
It
Your
does.
face is red.
It is. I don't know why. Ashley's like, what? Hey, Jenny.
We had Desi Yackle,
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yackle.
Desi.
What up, Yackle?
Hannah,
Hey, Hannah.
Candace,
Just Candace.
Marilyn Strong.
Hey, Marilyn.
And then we had somebody that put in for their uncle. And this was kind of touching. Martin Fido passed away, and he was an expert in ripperology.
That's a pretty interesting field to be an expert in.
No, it is. I mean, and you know, I talked to his niece, who's the one who put the Patreon in, and you know, I think if we do Jack, which I know we will at some point, we will probably end up using some of Martin's research, some of his work,
Right.
you know, in preparing for that case. So I thought it was interesting, and it was amazing that a niece thought of her uncle that way, and
that's cool.
So you know, I was touched by it.
I do wonder what ology I could be an expert in.
BSology,
No, there's actually a real ology I should be able to be an expert in.
assless chapology. I can just keep going. If you want me to.
This is not going to turn out the way I would hope it would be. All right, keep on going with your names.
M. Parker,
Hey, M.
Jake Workman,
Hey, Jake.
Mary Moody jumped out at her highest level.
Hey, is she a good Moody or a bad Moody?
I hope she's in a good mood.
I think it's a good Moody.
Charlotte Hicks,
Hey, Charlotte.
Ashley Shelkin,
Hey, Ashley. Ooh, Shelcon.
Lisa Lamb,
Hey, Lisa.
Alyssa Hill,
Hey, Alyssa.
Kaylee Croson,
Ooh, Croson.
and Meredith Slaughter.
Hey, ooh, Slaughter on a true crime
I
podcast.
know. How about that?
Yeah.
Then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs,
Okay.
this week we selected Taylor Roy,
Hey, Taylor.
longtime supporter. Appreciate that. We appreciate all the new Patreon support, the continued Patreon support. We talk about it. We've got true crime Patreon episodes out there. Now we have a movie podcast episode out there. There's some extra stuff out there for people to listen to.
International premiere
The international.
of the, we don't know what it's going to be called yet.
Yeah, we
movie
talk
podcast.
We talk about it on the episode, right? We have no music. We have no name. It's just us talking.
Yeah.
And later on, we'll slap the rest of it in. But we had some PayPal support as well.
All right.
Jennifer Warmuth,
Warmouth.
Yvonne in the UK.
Hey, Yvonne, because she's only Yvonne in the UK, so
Did you call her Yvonne?
Yvonne.
Yeah, I think you said Yvonne.
I might have.
Jane White.
Hey, Jane.
Philip Ballou actually gave us a sizable donation.
Really?
Very
Thanks,
much
Philip.
appreciated. And then we had Yvonne Moore. So
Not
a couple of
in the
Yvonnes.
UK.
Not. Well, it didn't say it was, so I'm
There
assuming.
can only be one Yvonne in the UK because we've got her. So this is a Yvonne and somewhere else.
Yep. So I talked about the Patreon episode. It's out there right now. It's on the movie Bernie. And that's what we're talking about in this episode. The story of Bernie Tiede.
Not to be confused with
Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
And the murder of Marjorie Nugent. The true life story that movie's based on. And as I think we talked about in the Patreon episode, Gibbs, a movie like this, it just can't give you all of the details in an hour and a half. That's just not the way that movies are made.
No.
You know, that movie is an overview. It really, the only time it kind of goes into details on very, very specific points, we're going to do a much deeper dive right into the story. And I think we start off talking about the backgrounds of Bernie and Marjorie, really the two principal individuals in this story. Bernie Tiede was born on August 2nd, 1958 in Abilene, Texas. He was born to Bernhardt and Layla May. So he was named after his father.
Yeah.
He was essentially Bernhardt Tiede II. But his dad had a very interesting history. He immigrated to the U.S. from Russia in the 1920s and settled in Texas, which seems strange if you think about it that way. I can't really think of too many places that are polar opposites than Russia and Texas are, but maybe that's what the elder Bernie was going for, right? I've lived in Russia. It's cold. It's dreary. I'm going to Texas.
Yeah.
Get a cowboy hat, some boots, a belt buckle.
Chaps.
I'm definitely going to need some chaps. I doubt this guy wore chaps or any of the other stuff I just said. He was a professor of music at a number of different colleges in Texas. It was said that he sang in church choirs. I'm thinking that this is where young Bernie got his musical talent from. Something we're going to talk about as this episode progresses.
You remember when I used to teach?
Do I remember when you used to teach?
Yeah.
Well, you're teaching me something almost every time I see you.
That's all I need to hear.
It's not good. It's not always good. Sometimes it's good.
Well, there's some things that you learn at the university that you don't really want to know, but you have to know. Just like my teachings to you, grasshopper.
Things that I really don't want to know, but you think I need to. That's what you're saying.
Pretty much.
Now, Bernie's mother died in a car accident when he was pretty young. So his father remarried, but he died when Bernie was only 15 years old. So I think that's important, right? I think there's some trauma there. You lose your mother at a very early age, and then you lose your father when you're still just a teenager. That can cause issues. I'm not saying it did in Bernie's case, but Bernie would later talk about years of sexual abuse that he suffered at the hands of his uncle. He claimed that he was abused by his uncle from the time he was 12 all the way until he was 18 years old. And this will become a very important part of this story much later on, towards the end, because it doesn't come out until many, many years later.
Right.
So Bernie graduated from high school in Abilene, Texas in 1976. He later attended and graduated from mortuary school, and he ended up working for the Hawthorne Funeral Home in Carthage, Texas. Carthage is in East Texas. Had a population of about 6,500 in the research as this case was taking place. I can't imagine today it's too much bigger. It's a pretty small town.
I know you played the clip for the movie podcast.
I still have it if you want to hear it.
I think you had to play. I think it cracks me up when they try to explain where.
So there is there's all these cutscenes in the movie, right? Of where they go to townsfolk in Carthage. And there's this one that's great. It's a guy that's basically giving you his version of the geographical history of Texas.
Carthage is in East Texas, and that's totally different from the rest of Texas, which could be 5 different states, actually. You got your West Texas out there with a bunch of flat ranches. Up north, you got them Dallas snobs with their Mercedes. And then you got the Houston, the carcinogenic coast is what I call it, all the way up to Louisiana. Then down south, San Antonio, that's where the Tex meets the Mex, like the food. And then in central Texas, you got the People's Republic of Austin, with a bunch of hairy-legged women and liberal fruitcakes. Of course, I left out the Panhandle, and a lot of people do, but Carthage, this is where the South begins. This is life behind the pine curtain. And truth be known, it's a good place.
So it's kind of an example of the really dry humor that's in this movie. So Bernie made his way to Carthage. He got a job at this funeral home. He was an assistant funeral home director. And I think he made a really good one. You know, people in Carthage said he sang like a bird, like an angel. And I think he had the perfect demeanor for this job. He was pretty much Gibbs universally liked. He was the kind of guy that people like to be around for a number of reasons. He was extremely generous, even to the detriment of his own financial situation.
He was the type of guy that he was very charitable with his income, and he would make people feel good about themselves. I think that's the one thing that he always did, is he could walk up to somebody and make them feel better than they did prior to him walking up.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the question is going to be why? Why did he do that stuff? And I think for me, what the conclusion that I come to is he needed that validation. He needed that adoration, whatever you want to call it. He needed to be liked. I think Bernie Tiede was that kind of person.
Yeah.
He needed everyone around him to like him. And he would do whatever he had to do to make that happen. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. He was very nice to people.
No, I think he enjoyed getting the validation back that whatever he was doing was liked.
And Bernie was especially liked by the older women in town. He was very, very sweet to them. You know, whether it was through his interactions at the funeral home, at church where he sang in the choir, or just around town. Right? Like you said, people were always happy to see Bernie Tiede.
Yeah.
Because he would put them in a good mood. They would feel better after they interacted with him.
Well, he definitely would give people attention.
Yeah, I think to say that this guy was a people person would be an understatement, right? He loved people. But again, I think most of all, he craved, I don't want to say attention. He craved the satisfaction maybe of knowing that he had done something for somebody.
Yeah.
Or something, you know.
No, yeah, I think you're exactly
and the
right.
feeling of being liked,
Yeah.
just in general.
Mr. Do-Gooder.
Yeah. I do think that was a big influence on the way he acted, the reason why he did certain things, how he handled his interactions with people. But again, you know, those people didn't know the reasons behind why he did what he did. They just saw him as a nice, sweet guy, which really he was. There's no doubt about it. So I want to play a clip from, you know, some of the townsfolk in Carthage about Bernie Tiede.
Yeah.
Well, he was very nice.
Bernie is a likable fella.
He sang in the choir.
He was active in his church.
He could preach wonderful sermons.
So, you know, obviously real short, just slap together a bunch of, you know, quotes from people. The thing about these clips, these were all from people after the murder, after they knew what Bernie had done.
Yep.
And we're going to get into that more as we go along.
I find it interesting that these are real clips from real people, you know, and if you listen to the clips from the movie, which happens to be majority of real town folk as well, the clips, they're saying the same thing, you know, he's a nice guy, give the shirt off his back, all that kind of stuff, right? He was just a good, religious, caring, heartfelt man.
Now, Bernie didn't date women in Carthage, although I do think a lot of the women there would have dated him. He, you know, like we said, they probably viewed him as somebody very dateable. Bernie was gay. It was something he didn't advertise around town.
So not openly.
Not openly gay. And, you know, this is East Texas. I don't think in, you know, that time period, that is something that he wanted to advertise. But it was suspected by, you know, some of the people in town. And again, Gibbs, I don't want to talk a lot about the movie because we covered that in the Patreon episode. But I do think we have to talk about Jack Black's portrayal of Bernie. He really was amazing in this film. And I want to play a clip of the real Bernie and then a clip of Jack Black just to give people kind of an idea of the two.
I don't know exactly what caused that morning to happen. I called her and I said, we're going to Longview. I'm going to run to take my clothes to the cleaners. Would you like to ride with me? We'll go to Hunan's and eat some Chinese food. And she said, yeah. And so I went out there to go and pick her up. And I don't know, it was just, she was starting nagging at me. It's about something. And I don't know really how that felt, but it felt like that because it was really, I got scared, you know. I got scared, and I didn't know what to do.
I never thought of me killing Mrs. Nugent. I guess I fantasized about her death, but I was never the one responsible for it. She always died accidentally, like in a car accident or falling down the escalator at the mall in Longview. I was always the one weeping by her open casket. comforting others, being comforted myself.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, no, I think people can figure out which one's which, right? The first one's the real Bernie, the second one's Jack Black. I think he spent a lot of time with the real Bernie, getting his mannerisms, now he might have played a little bit more over the top.
I think he probably did
with the voice.
bit. Yeah.
But it was good. You know, he gave a very good performance. Now, Bernie Tiede met Marjorie Nugent at the Hawthorne Funeral Home in 1990. They met when Marjorie's husband, Rod, passed away, and Bernie handled his service. So 1990, Marjorie was about 75 years old. Bernie was about 33. Just to kind of put it in perspective, Marjorie was also now worth millions and millions of dollars. Her husband had made a lot of money in the oil business over the years.
Sure did.
She was the richest woman in Carthage, but she was definitely not the most well-liked. That was no secret. Everybody pretty much, as a majority, felt that way about her. In fact, most people didn't like her at all. I mean, at all. She was disliked. They thought she was snooty. They thought she was mean.
I mean, people would avoid her in town.
I think they would cross the street.
Yeah.
If she was walking on the same side of the street that they were. She had a grown son named Rod, who was a pathologist. And she had 4 grandchildren, but I don't think family was real important to Marjorie. It was either that or her family had made her so mad over the years because she rarely saw them. And I think made it pretty well known that she didn't care to see them.
Yeah. I mean, the impression I got was it's her way, and either you go along with her way or you hit the highway.
Is that the same as like her way or the highway? You just added a bunch of things in the middle of it.
It can be. There's a difference, a slight difference.
Yeah, she also had a couple of sisters. I think she had one sister that lived in town, in the Carthage area.
Yeah.
I don't think she saw her.
Tells you how close they
Yeah,
were.
it just shows you what she really thought of family. Not much.
Right.
All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, BetterHelp. If there's something that is interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, BetterHelp Online Counseling is there for you. They offer licensed professional counselors who are specialized in a wide array of issues. You can connect with your professional counselor in a safe and private online environment. Anything you share is confidential. It's extremely convenient. You can now get help at your own time and at your own pace. They have secure video and phone sessions plus chat and text options. And if you're not happy with your counselor, you can request a new one at any time. This is a truly affordable option. And True Crime All the Time listeners get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/TCAT. So why not get started today? Go to betterhelp.com/TCAT. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire. This helps them assess your needs, but also helps them match you with a counselor you will love. That's betterhelp.com/TCAT. Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. So after this service, right, her husband passed away. Bernie began visiting Marjorie at her house. And this wasn't unusual. This was something that Bernie did with many of the widows in town. It was almost, Gibbs, like he thought it was his duty, right, to follow up with these women to make sure that they were okay after their husbands passed away.
Yeah, he'd like to come in and pick up the pieces and just make sure, like you said, move them forward and get their mind off of what happened and help life carry on.
I think it's part of the reason why Bernie was so beloved in the town. But again, we said it. He went out of his way to really endear himself to the people in town. But something different happened with Marjorie Nugent. One visit led to another, and within weeks of the funeral, Bernie had moved into her home, had become her personal assistant / bookkeeper. And over the next couple of years, right, they just continued to get closer and closer. They traveled on trips together. They went shopping together.
Well, when you say they traveled on trips together, it was some big trips they traveled on.
Oh, yeah. They weren't going to the neighboring state. I mean, they were going to Acapulco and Russia. And, I mean, these were big time trips. Again, money was no object for Marjorie. And I think she enjoyed lavishing her money on Bernie Tiede, as long as he did what she wanted him to do. And we're going to, that's going to be a big theme in this episode. They attended events in town together. They were seen together. Essentially, they were spending a lot of time together.
Yeah. Is it safe to say he found himself a sugar mama?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. And at a certain point, pretty early on, I think, he gained power of attorney over Marjorie's affairs and was authorized to write checks from her bank accounts.
Man, there you go.
That's going to play huge.
Yeah.
In this story.
How do I get a sugar mama?
I don't know.
I need a sugar mama.
I don't have one, so I don't know how to tell you to get one.
I know.
My wife's a teacher.
She's not going to be a sugar mama. She's going to be a mama.
Yeah, she's a mama.
How is a mama?
No sugar mama.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is that everyone that knew the two of them after they started spending all this time together said that Marjorie was happy. Bernie made her happier than she had been in a very long time. He was extremely devoted to her. He doted on her. I think in Bernie Tiede, Marjorie got the attention that she needed.
Well, he would definitely give attention. So, and make people, like I said, he made people feel good about themselves. So I'm sure he made her feel terrific about her.
Well, so take Bernie, who made people feel great about themselves in these limited interactions. Now he's essentially her housemate. He's with her all the time. So all of his wanting to please other people is basically going to Marjorie.
Yeah.
I think she wanted someone to be there for her every need. And that is basically what Bernie did. That's the role that he filled. He cut his hours at the funeral home down to part-time just to spend more time with her by 1993. Right? So this is 3 years that they've kind of been together. And
right.
Together is a strange word. It's not sexual. This is not a sexual relationship.
So Bernie's living there. He's doing things for her, right? Kind of employed by her. In return, he gets to live in this really nice mansion and has all those additional financial benefits, traveling and driving a nice car, her car, and doing things like that. In return, she's getting what? Some emotional benefits from him, plus
all of her errands, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing all the things that she needs somebody to do.
Sure.
Yeah. Not a bad gig for him.
Or for her, because like I said, she was happy. People said that. But by 1993, Bernie had quit his job at the funeral home altogether. He became Marjorie's full-time companion, just with her, every second of the day. But he also became her business manager. Marjorie liked Bernie so much that she eventually struck her family from her will. And this was a sizable amount of money.
Yeah.
I think I read her estate was worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million, or she was worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million.
It's a good chunk of change.
She had quite a bit of money, completely kicked her family out of the will, and made Bernie Tiede her sole beneficiary. Now, there are some reports that Bernie might have nudged that along, planted that seed, made it happen in some way, but obviously she had to go along with it.
Yeah. But still, 1990, $5 million, big money.
It's big cash.
So how did your family take it when you removed them from your will and added me?
They weren't happy.
They weren't happy.
First of all, they said, why in the world would you leave him anything?
Well, at least you can do is leave me this newer chair you finally got me.
Newer chair. You crack me up. Anytime you get stuck and you don't know what to say, you go back to the chair or you go to the furries. That's it. That's your two. You got to come up with more.
Since you brought that up, do not leave me the furry costume.
Oh, that's in the will. That would be the one thing I'd leave you.
Yeah, I don't want the furry costume. We can leave that to one of our furry listeners. You know, they know exactly what needs to happen with that.
Which we have a number of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't want your crazy looking bobblehead things that keep staring at me down here in the studio.
So I think this relationship is key, right? In understanding how it worked. You know, like I said, people said that Marjorie was happy, but people also said it was a strange relationship. You know, many people described it that way. And I think over the years, it became stranger and stranger. For one thing, Marjorie became more and more controlling. She wanted to know where Bernie was at all times. She expected him to essentially be at her beck and call every minute of the day.
Boy, I know what that's like.
Do you?
Yeah, you.
You don't even return my texts. How could you be at my beck and call?
Here you go, on me already. Well, not returning the text from 3 nights ago.
Yeah, I texted you.
It's only been 3 nights.
You don't.
Here I am.
You still haven't returned it. It's been 3 days.
Why return it? I'm here.
Because it just sits out there and makes it look like you didn't respond to me. There were reports, Gibbs, that Marjorie forced Bernie to give her massages. Okay, you're a personal assistant? Maybe. Also, to shave her legs. It might be crossing the personal assistant line. I don't know. I've never had a personal assistant.
What? And you try, and I'm like, hey,
I try to make you my personal assistant.
It won't happen.
You think I would let you run my latex company? That's what you think.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. I should know better.
But I think as this controlling behavior increased, Marjorie became more verbally abusive. She became more emotionally abusive towards Bernie. This was a relationship that was going downhill very quickly. And it was on November 19th, 1996. So they're 6 years in to this relationship. They were leaving to run some errands. They were going to get something to eat. Bernie picked up a .22 caliber rifle and he shot 81-year-old Marjorie Nugent in the back 4 times.
4.
As she bent over to pet her dog. So she's dead. Bernie has killed her with this .22. He then proceeded to clean off her body. He wrapped it in what I saw was a Land's End bed sheet.
Okay.
And then he put her body in the freezer.
So he cleaned her up, wrapped her up, and then stuffed her in a freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he's going to talk about it later, but again, he's a mortician.
Right.
So would a person with a different vocation clean the body before they put it in the freezer? I don't think you're going to be eating anything out of that freezer anyway.
I would hope not.
But would a mortician do that? Maybe. Maybe that's just what he's used to doing. But her body would remain in this freezer for the next 9 months.
I just froze. I just panicked. So I thought, well, I put her in the freezer, being in the funeral business, you keep a body cool, keep it cold. You usually tend to it later on, and that's what I did. I just took got some food from that freezer room just right off the door that goes into the house. People think that she was in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. It was right there. It's just a little pantry. It's right by the door leading from the garage into the house. It was just no big deal. It was right there.
It's just no big deal.
No big deal. Just a body in the freezer.
She's in the freezer. What's the big deal about that?
Everything's all right. It's like being at the freezer at the funeral home.
But he did kind of say it, right? That I don't know how he worded it exactly, but it was almost like his mortician instincts kicked in. But this 9-month period, it was a mix of the bizarre and the comical. Obviously Bernie had a problem on his hands, because even though Marjorie was not what you would consider a well-liked person, there were still people who would interact with her on a somewhat regular basis. How is Bernie Tiede going to hide the fact that he has killed her and stuffed her in the freezer? I think pretty well, actually, in fact, at least for as long as he could keep the charade going, which is 9 months, right? We know it's 9 months long. One thing that Bernie had on his side was, as we mentioned, Marjorie was estranged from her family. So he really didn't have to worry much about that. I think her sister did, she had one family member in Carthage. I can't remember. I think it was a sister. It might have been somebody else, but that person did ask about her a number of times, but nobody outside of this one person. Her son never asked. I don't think the grandkids really asked.
How sad is that? Seriously.
Well, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. The individuals that Bernie did have to deal with, I think most of them were financial people who handled in some way Marjorie's money. It's a sizable amount of money.
Sure.
She had a financial advisor. There were people at different banks, but all of these were people that Bernie knew, and they were people that knew him, right? He had been on her accounts for a number of years. So he had been interacting with these people and had the authorization to do so. He'd pretty much been in charge of her finances, paying her bills, doing everything.
Yeah, it's income for him too.
But the thing was, he just had to keep making up stories. Story after story, right? As the months went by, as to why people couldn't see Marjorie, why they couldn't talk to her on the phone.
The problem with that is once you tell one lie, one story like that, and keep building onto it, you kind of got to worry that you might forget how you originally started it out.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep the whole web of lies together, right? For a long extended period of time. He would say that she was sick. She was on an extended vacation. She was in a nursing home. I think at some point he started telling people she had Alzheimer's. But after Marjorie's death, Bernie started spending her money at a pretty staggering pace. It was said that he threw some expensive parties. He bought cars for people in town. He helped other people out with their mortgage if they were behind on their bills. And this is one of the big things to me, Gibbs, is that, yes, he spent a ton of her money. But if you look at it, for the most part, I won't say in every instance, but for the most part, he used the money to help other people.
It's like Robin Hood.
Almost. He gave one of his good friends, Wyatt Henderson, who I think he had met at the funeral home or worked with at the funeral home at one time, about $250,000 over a period of time. $75,000 of that went to open up a Western store.
There you go.
In downtown Carthage.
Good place to
get boots, buckles,
chaps.
He sank a good deal of her money into a business called Carthage Aviation.
Yeah, he liked to fly planes, didn't he?
He did. In total, he spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of her money.
But all good, but for the good of the community.
For the most part, I think it really was. There wasn't a lot of it where he was getting this huge benefit out of it financially. It was said that the Western store never actually made any money.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was,
Living high off the...
getting a kickback off of that. He pledged $100,000 to the church for them to build an addition. So I talked about Bernie having to make up all these stories to many different people as to where Marjorie was. Like we talked about, 9 months is a long time to keep that up. And eventually people start to really question, all these different stories. They start to call the sheriff saying, hey, something's just not right here. And eventually the sheriff thinks, yeah, something's wrong. Marjorie's son, Rod, was contacted and asked to come to Carthage. And he did. And he brought along his oldest daughter. So that would have been Marjorie's granddaughter.
Sure.
So along with the sheriff, they entered her house, but no sign of Marjorie. So the sheriff and his deputies are searching the house. They're looking for her, but they're also looking for any clues, right, that might lead them to more information about where she is. It was actually her oldest granddaughter that looked at the freezer and saw that it was taped up. And she thought that was strange. Why put tape on the freezer? When the deputies opened it up, they found Marjorie Nugent inside. She had some food on her, and she was hidden a little bit. I saw one report that said she had a big old turkey on top of her.
Turkey sitting on top of her. Well, that is strange to have tape on a freezer, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not at my house. I seem to have tape on quite a few things that won't stay shut or don't work the way they're supposed to.
I remember that time you tried to tape me. Didn't go well, did it? Tried to tape my phone away from me and tape it down to the desk and tape my hands to the chair so I couldn't move them. Yeah, none of it worked.
I would never try to do that because I know it wouldn't end up well. But man, if I could blink my eye or twitch my nose and make it happen,
yeah,
I'd be a happy man.
Be happy? Yeah. Good thing you can't, Samantha.
So, obviously it didn't take them long to pull Bernie Tiede in for questioning, and didn't take him long to confess. He confessed pretty quickly to the murder. Bernie said in his confession, I had thoughts of hitting Marjorie on the head with a bat or anything for a couple of months prior to November the 19th, 1996, but I didn't want her to suffer. She had become very hateful. She had become very possessive over my life. She was now evil and wicked, but I still cared for her. He went on to say that he shot Marjorie 4 times. Then he cleaned her body and put it in the freezer. And like we kind of mentioned, Bernie said he was thinking like a mortician. He had to preserve the body until he could give Marjorie a proper burial. And to me, this is one of the biggest parts of the case. I guess one of the biggest questions, I should say, for me. Did it happen as Bernie said it did? Did he really just get so fed up with Marjorie and the way that she had been treating him that he snapped? He'd been thinking about, something bad for months. Right. And then all of a sudden that day, that was it. He snapped, he lost it. Then once he figured out what he had done, did he clean her body, put her in the freezer out of respect for her, right? Thinking I've got to freeze her body. That's the only way to preserve it until I can figure out some way that I'm going to be able to give her a proper burial. I don't know how he thought he was going to ever be able to do that, as opposed to Gibbs sticking her in the freezer because I just need to get her out of the way.
Exactly.
To me, that's like one of the biggest questions in this case. Not that I don't know that it matters a whole lot because he still killed her. It fascinates me.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think he thought he was doing the right thing with the body. I think after he shot and killed her and the initial shock went away, his profession kicked in.
I think so too. I really do. I don't know, and we may get into this later. I don't know, but I don't know if he really snapped in this dissociative state that people are going to claim later on that he was in. Like he didn't really know what he was doing.
Right.
I don't know about that, but I do think after he killed her, it was almost as if he had to take care of her. And I mean, take care of her in I guess in a good way.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
That's why he cleaned the body up and yeah.
Another very interesting part of this case is how victim and perpetrator were viewed in the city of Carthage. There were many people saying, oh, no way Bernie could have killed Marjorie, even after it came out that he had confessed.
Yeah.
And he didn't just, verbally confess. He wrote it all down.
People still wanted to hold on to the fact that he couldn't do something like that.
Well, not my Bernie.
No.
There's no way. The sheriff came out and said that they found, I think, over 50 videotapes showing men in homosexual acts. I think in Carthage, that was probably pretty big news.
I would think.
But I just think no matter what came out about Bernie, none of it really mattered. They just didn't want to believe that this person they had known for years as this great guy was a murderer. And to that point, some of the elderly women that loved Bernie to death, they were baking pies. They were making cakes to bring to Bernie in the jail.
They really were, man.
Knowing that he has confessed to killing this 81-year-old woman. I think the saddest part of it all is that no one really cared at all that Marjorie Nugent was dead. They just didn't care.
No, the concern was what's going to happen to Bernie.
Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like they're 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. My wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership is free, and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's RAKUTEN. Your cash back really adds up. The focus was on Bernie. There was one councilman in Carthage was quoted as saying, "From the day that deep freeze was open, you haven't been able to find anyone in town saying, 'Poor Mrs. Nugent.' People here are saying, 'Poor Bernie.'" And I think some of this may have been what drew some of the national media to Carthage to cover the story. But once they got there, they began getting all of these great sound bites, right? From the townspeople, the mayor, anyone else willing to talk. Inside Edition, hard copy, you name it. The other thing that really kind of threw me for a loop was that the pastor at the church, where they both attended, asked for prayers for Bernie, but not for Marjorie or her family.
Which is strange.
Right. I guess they had, they have a prayer list, and Bernie's name was on the prayer list for like a year and a half, I think. Marjorie's never even made it on.
And if you think about it, the money that was donated to the church was from Marjorie.
It was. We're going to talk about it. It never actually made it to the. They never actually got the benefit of it. But
there you go.
Did they know that? Because it's all coming from Bernie. Bernie's writing the check, although it had to have had Marjorie's name on it, right?
I would think at that dollar amount.
He's writing the checks from her account, I would think. So everyone loves Bernie. They're backing Bernie. I shouldn't say everyone, not everyone, but a large part of the population in Carthage was behind Bernie.
Absolutely, they were.
I think what it did is it made it very tough on the district attorney, Danny Buck. We talk about Danny quite a bit in the Patreon episode because he's played by Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
This guy had people in town coming up to him all over the place saying, hey, leave Bernie alone.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Bernie. He's a good guy. He couldn't have done it. This is a man that confessed to killing a woman.
And if they did think he did it, they're like, could you blame him?
Yeah.
Basically.
Right. Yeah. You're right. I don't think everybody was saying he didn't do it. I think there were people that knew he did it, but they were still trying to excuse it.
Yeah, definitely trying to justify it.
Or justify it in some way.
I mean, really bizarre if you think about it. For two people to be in town, one's dead, one's the person that did it, and they're all championing around. I mean, maybe she wasn't the nicest person, but it wasn't like she was some kind of criminal or doing something terrible to people, or just wasn't well liked.
Well, add on top of that, he didn't just kill her. He committed a litany of financial crimes after the fact by essentially stealing probably $500,000 or whatever it was. It was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But back to the DA, right? All these people coming up to him. This is really one of the only cases, Gibbs, that I've ever heard of where the prosecution, not the defense, the prosecution wanted a change of venue because they didn't think that they could get an impartial jury for a trial involving a man that had confessed to murdering another resident of the town. And let's not forget an elderly 81-year-old woman.
Yeah. No, I think if they would have had the trial in the hometown, it would have been a different story.
Oh, yeah. If the jury was made up of folks from Carthage, I think it would have been different.
Totally different outcome.
Because I think he was right. I think Danny Buck was right. And ultimately, the trial was moved a couple of counties away. So Bernie went to trial. And the prosecution presented all this evidence, including his written confession, all of it, out in front of the jury. Bernie's defense attorney was this guy named Scrappy Holmes.
What a name.
I know. Scrappy. He was scrappy. He tried valiantly to defend Bernie, to say what a good person he was and how he had been driven to commit this crime. But I think the issue in this trial was Scrappy didn't have it's almost weird to say that. Hey, Scrappy didn't have a mental health expert or anyone like that, right? Anyone from the psychiatric field that could testify to that fact that Bernie had been driven to kill by some, mitigating factor. And on the stand, Bernie testified. He said that he shot Marjorie 4 times. He said that he dragged her by her feet to the freezer and that he put her in. He even talked about, the fact that he washed the blood from the garage with a hose. He raked up the bullet casings and put them in a pile of leaves. Then he went home, he took a shower before going to the local college for a play rehearsal that he was directing. It's one thing we haven't talked about. Bernie Tiede was into the theater big time.
Oh, yeah.
He was acting in plays. He was directing plays.
Singing.
He was singing. He was into musicals big time. So after they had this rehearsal, he took all 40 of the students that were in this play out for pizza. This is what happened the night that he murdered Marjorie Nugent. And he's on the stand telling the jury this. I mean, to me, Gibbs, this doesn't sound like the actions of a man that he can't believe what he's just done. He's so shook up that he's going to go off to the play, do the rehearsal, then go out for pizza. I found that very odd.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
And I think the jury did too. They convicted Bernie of murder.
Oh, I think they wanted to see some remorse.
I think he had remorse.
Well, probably immediate remorse is what I mean.
Oh, you mean that? Yeah, right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was remorseful to the jury. But that story, or him telling about the night, you're right. That's a man that's just going to go about his business.
Yeah. It's hard to play off that one.
So he got a life sentence. He would be eligible for parole in 30 years. Now you might say this is Texas, right? Why no death penalty? From what I read, it was not an option because the prosecution couldn't prove that he had committed the murder for personal gain or that he had committed it during the commission of another felony. So it didn't meet the criteria, I guess, for the death penalty. So Bernie's convicted and he's shipped off to prison. He was attacked right off the bat, like as soon as he got to prison. And I'm not sure if there was a special reason for the attack or just the fact that prison is a dangerous place.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that you could get attacked. You could get shanked with a shiv. You can get shivved with a shank.
You can get a lot of things that start with an S.
None of them are good.
No.
But there were a lot of people in Carthage that felt the effect of Bernie being gone. I mean, we talked about it. Bernie had given out so much of Marjorie's money to help people out in Carthage that they kind of came to depend on him. Well, probably more accurately, they came to depend on Marjorie's money.
Exactly.
But with him gone, that money dried up and those people couldn't make it, right? They started getting hounded by bill collectors. The hardest hit was probably Wyatt Henderson and his wife because they had received the most money by far. I think it was, maybe $250,000, something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Over the years, they were sued civilly by Marjorie's family after all this came out. The IRS froze their assets. The Western store went out of business. Another person that was hit hard was Joe Mosier. That was Bernie's business partner in the Carthage aviation business. After Bernie was arrested, the IRS came in and seized the company. Because basically Bernie had put up all the money for this business using Margie's money. So he was the money guy and this Joe Mosier was kind of running it.
Right. The business back.
Yeah, he was the business guy. And I kind of mentioned it, right? The church never got that $100,000 that Bernie pledged, but they carried through with the addition, assuming they were going to get that money. So they were $100,000 short. It put them in a very deep financial hole. I mean, there was a whole mess of civil lawsuits launched as a result of all this. I mean, most of those by the Nugent family. I guess what I'm getting at is there was a lot of people affected by what Bernie Tiede did outside of what we normally talk about in the victim and the victim's family. And there was just regular citizens that were deeply affected by what he had done.
We know a lot of the elderly women were very upset.
It wasn't all about the money. I think there were a lot of people, I think, like you're alluding to, that were hurt just because they loved Bernie so much. They had put so much trust in this man over the years. They felt hurt. They felt betrayed by Bernie Tiede. But again, to me, it seems as though there were many more people mourning the loss of Bernie Tiede to prison than there were mourning the loss of Marjorie Nugent's life. It's very strange. This whole thing is strange.
The whole dynamic behind it.
It is. Now, we talked about her family. Many of them came out and they said they hadn't seen her in years. And the last time they did see her at her home, she just came out and told them she didn't want to have anything to do with them. This is her family,
You imagine
her
hearing
kids, her grandkids.
You imagine hearing that?
I cannot imagine, but it goes to the fact that she was not a nice person.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it. She didn't deserve to die, but she
No.
wasn't a nice person. So Bernie's doing his time in prison. He's in the prison choir. He's teaching some classes. He's doing arts and crafts. From what I understand, he was pretty well liked after the initial beatdown he took.
You do arts and crafts.
Sure.
I've seen your little arts and craft table over there.
I'm manly enough to admit that.
I know. I think it's cute that you do that.
Bernie was described as a model inmate. But if you think about it, he's doing some of the same things on the inside that he had done on the outside.
Oh, he's befriending everybody.
Oh, he's singing.
Yeah.
They're probably putting on plays. He's helping everybody.
He's probably like, Bubba, I know you're having a rough day. I'm here for you. Not here for you, but I'm here for you if you need to talk.
Well, let's listen to this short portion of an interview that Bernie did in prison.
This is really what happened. I did something horrible. And I regret that every day for the rest of my life. And if they gave me 3,000 years in here, they could never take that away from me. I have to live with this every day of my life. And Margie comes and talks to me all the time at night when I'm asleep. And I'm telling you, I have to live with this for the rest of my life.
Well, you should live with it for the rest of your life. You killed someone. But I like the part where he's talking about Margie comes to him, at night when he's sleeping. What does she say? Dumbass, you killed me.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I gave you everything.
Yeah. She's like, once I got up here, I found out I was going to go about 2 more weeks anyway. And you would have had it all. You shot me too soon.
But the one thing that Bernie didn't do in prison, he didn't stop fighting. He hired a new attorney who in 2014 successfully argued that Bernie had suffered years and years of both sexual and emotional abuse. So what we talked about, in the very beginning, it didn't come out until 2014. They argued that all of this should have been, revealed. It should have been a factor in his original trial. And at the very least, it should have played a part in his original sentencing. Bernie's attorney argued that a life sentence was way too harsh for the crime and the circumstances of the crime.
And even the Texas State Supreme Court agreed.
Yeah, they said that he should receive a new trial to decide his punishment. And again, in a case to me that is full of strange aspects, this is yet another one. Not the fact so much that, he's going to have a new trial, but he's released from prison.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting.
In 2014.
Yeah.
On $10,000 bail, which doesn't sound like much for somebody that has a life sentence.
Right.
But he goes to live in an apartment owned by this guy, Richard Linklater. This is the guy that made the film Bernie.
Yeah. Famous director.
Yeah, pretty famous. He's done some good movies.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that ticked a lot of people off, namely the jury that sat and made the decision on Bernie's first trial. They didn't like it at all. They thought, this man was guilty. He got the right sentence. Even if they had known about the sexual, emotional abuse as a child, they said it wouldn't have changed their thought process in any way. The other people that were not happy about this was Marjorie's family. This is a man that killed their mother, their grandmother, and he's back on the streets.
Yeah.
So they have another trial, but it doesn't start until 2016. So essentially for 2 years, he's a free man. The prosecutors, once again, they portrayed Bernie as this greedy person who intentionally conned Marjorie out of her money, and he killed her to cover it up, right? It wasn't just that he took her money after she was dead. They argued that he'd been spending her money for a long time, and he had. The question really was how much of it was Margie aware of, and was she okay with?
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of people that have said Margie knew about a lot of that stuff, and she was totally fine with him spending her money.
Yeah, I think she probably was.
But their argument was that she wasn't. She found out about it, and he killed her. And they said, hey, his original sentence was right. It fit the crime.
It was justified.
It was justified. But the defense argued that Bernie snapped due to years and years of abuse that he suffered as a child. And this time they did have psychiatric experts. They didn't have any in the first trial, but this time they did. They testified that the childhood abuse he suffered caused this, and I kind of already gave it away, but this dissociative episode at the point in time when he killed Marjorie Nugent. So essentially he didn't know what he was doing. They said that the 17 years he'd already spent in prison was enough of a sentence. He should get out, with time already served. And the defense had some more witnesses. They had 3, in fact, that took the stand and told jurors that Elmer Doucette, this was Bernie's uncle, had sexually abused them as well. So that definitely added some credence to Bernie's allegations against his uncle. They brought up Bernie's relationship with Marjorie. They actually compared Bernie to a battered wife. They were essentially saying in this situation, Marjorie Nugent was the abusive husband.
Emotionally abused him, is what they're saying.
Yes. But none of this really landed with this new jury. They came up with essentially the same, verdict and sentence as the old jury. It was on April 22nd, 2016. The new sentence was 99 years to life for Bernie. They deliberated for about 4 hours before coming to this conclusion. And later the sentence was upheld by the Texas Court of Appeals. So my question is, what's the real difference here? Life? 99 to life?
Yeah.
Maybe he comes up for parole a little bit. I couldn't find when he's up for parole now. It was 30 years.
Right.
So he, this maybe the 99 to life gives him parole a little bit.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sooner.
He just has an option to get out sooner.
But I will say this. This is a story that put the little town of Carthage on the map in a couple of different ways. I think it will always be part of the town. And I want to play this clip of some people in town kind of echoing that.
Well, like I say, it's a bit of Texas folklore. It's going to be here probably long after I'm gone.
They've done so many different things on Bernie. Years ago, they had some folks came through here, and they made a video. They interviewed Danny Buck and Sheriff Jack and all that, and so many others that were directly involved at that time. And so this is, I kind of agree with Ira, this is going to be ongoing. It's not going to stop today. It's not going to stop tomorrow. It's going to keep on because this is part of East Texas. It's part of Carthage. That's what really put Carthage on the map, is the Bernie case.
But I think, 50 years from now, if you can go online and check out Texas Monthly or do an online search for Texas murders, this is going to pop up.
So small town, well-publicized murder.
Oh, yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And how many years are we, past when the murder happened? I think those guys are right. It's just a part of Carthage history when they don't have a lot of history of this type of thing. Now, the one thing I will say is that I think the view of many people in Carthage regarding Bernie Tiede, it changed quite a bit over the years. So many of the people that at first thought he shouldn't be convicted, it couldn't have been him, I think they changed their way of thinking. Many of those people, by the time of the second trial, believed that, he did this, he should serve his full time. There was a lot of articles about that. Now, a lot of time had passed, right? 17 years changes people's thinking.
Yeah, it really does.
But that's it, Gibbs. That's the case of Bernie Tiede. I just think it's one of those fascinating cases because it has so many different layers to it. You know, how many cases do we talk about where the killer, the perpetrator, is this beloved, unbelievably nice guy that the whole town is gaga over?
Yeah, rooting for him.
It just doesn't have. Yeah, they're rooting for him after they find out he's the killer.
For me, I think it's just bizarre that they have to move the trial to get a fair trial, not for him, but for her.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't hear that. Hey, we're moving the trial because if we don't, the guy that is guilty will get off.
Yeah. A man that took advantage of an elderly woman, spent her money, killed her, and we're not sure if we can find enough jurors that, with the evidence we have, which includes a written confession, will put this guy away.
It's like I've said, I'm telling you, if they would have had the trial in town there, I think we'd be looking at a different story.
Nope, I agree. All right, we got some voicemails. You want to hear those?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Cecilia, and I'm from Australia. I've been listening to your show for about a couple months now, and I love it. I like how you present the stories. I like how you have all these opinions about the crime. I really enjoy listening to you guys and your funny accents. Yeah, I work as a housekeeper, so it's really great for me to listen to your podcast while I'm working. And yeah, just want to say keep up the good work, and yeah, see you around.
All right, from Australia.
Aye, good to hear from you, mate.
Mate. She had a very, what's the word, Gibbs? Slight accent.
Yeah.
She didn't have a strong accent.
Kind of like mine. Mild.
Very mild.
Very mild.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. This is Lana Hyatt from Ohio in the good old C-Bus. You didn't know my voice. I'm a little bit sick, but I've totally enjoyed all of your podcasts. I've pretty much binge-watched them the past 2 weeks. I'm on episode 53 now. It's great to see the connection that you guys have, and I can't wait to listen to all the rest. Have a good one, guys, and keep your own time ticking.
Got a little Columbus in the house.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lana is a fairly new Patreon supporter.
Oh, yeah?
So we haven't come up on her name yet, but I was trying to figure out how to say it, and now she's giving it away.
She did.
She gave it away.
However, I won't remember it by then because
I probably won't either.
I've already probably forgotten.
Already have probably forgotten.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Jamie, old friend from CrimeCon in Grand Rapids. Listen, I was listening to the James Ruprecht recent version, and it was fantastic because, Gibby, this is for you. He had started talking about that Bernie movie with Jack Black, and I just started laughing because my husband loves that movie, and he walks around the house like Jack Black all the time singing, "This is my story, this is my song." He says it with both arms, very grandiose. But anyway, it just made me laugh when you brought up that movie because my husband does that all the time, so he has a wonderful life, of course, with me. Anyway, I hope you guys are wonderful. Have a great week. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Old friend from CrimeCon.
Yeah. I wonder if they both break out and like show tunes and sing to each other. And
I don't know, but what a timely voicemail.
Perfect.
That we just happened to be doing this one.
Worked out well.
Hey, what's up, fellas? This is John from Chicago, Illinois. I'm an EMT here, and I got to say, the podcast really helps me unwind after a day of seeing crazy stuff for hours and sometimes a day straight. It's actually pretty funny. I got turned on to you guys by a teacher in college, and our assignment was to listen to an episode of True Crime All the Time and then write a report on it and what we thought about it. So just so you know how deep your influence is getting here in Chicago. But anyway, I don't have any case recommendations. You guys bring up stuff that I didn't even know existed, and I love it. Just wanted to say, keep up the great work. And I'm sorry, but I got to say it. Go Team Gibby. Anyway, guys, once again, keep up the great work. Thanks for everything that you do to keep your own time ticking.
I like the fact that people have to say, "I'm sorry to have to say it."
That hurts.
That means something.
It hurts a little bit for some reason.
It means you shouldn't be saying it if you're sorry to have to
all
say
I can say to all my high school teachers
is,
hey, I made it. I am teaching in college.
Well, speaking of that, it's amazing how many emails I get from professors. I think I've talked about this before.
Sure.
There's a couple of universities in New York I know that are using that are assigning out episodes of our podcast.
It's cool.
It is very cool.
Can I get an honorary diploma from the university of one of these schools?
The university of one of these schools. That, you know what? I'll make you a diploma and it will say the university of one of these schools. But I think a prerequisite for you to receive an honorary degree should be that you have to be able to pronounce and or spell the word honorary.
I got that down. I'm good.
You crack me up.
Hold on. Let me Google it. All right, now let's go. I'm just joking.
All right. So love the voicemails.
Yeah.
And that is really cool. We had mailbag.
Did we? Let's talk about
We
it.
only got one package, but it was a hell of a package. I'll tell you that.
That's what she said.
Rhonda Allred, she sent in a Harley chip for me.
Yeah.
She sent in some oatmeal cream pies, Little Debbie's.
Little Debbie's?
We love those.
Did you open them up?
I haven't. And then she sent something, Gibbs, that nobody's ever sent.
No.
She sent you a pillow.
Yeah, she did.
Like a throw pillow.
Yeah, she did.
There is not a pillow on earth like this.
This is one of a kind.
It has a cowboy scene on it.
It does.
And on both sides, and it says Rex West.
It does.
I don't know how she made it, but it's cool.
Rex says thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Rhonda. Appreciate that. I know Rhonda's a Patreon supporter, a big
that's
supporter of the show. All right. That's it. You got anything else, Rex?
Now I'm going to go grab my pillow and lay my head down.
As we do the next episode?
Yeah.
You'll be in and out.
I'll be
kind
in
of
and
dozing.
out. Yeah.
All right.
I could have used that pillow.
I don't think anybody will know.
I will say, yeah.
If you're worried about
that
it.
hurts, man. That hurts. I will.
I hate to say this. I'm going to start leading off with that.
Yeah, leading off with that. Now, if I would have had that pillow last year, it would have been really good because I could have used it to soften my ass sitting on that wood slated chair.
Now it's slated.
Slotted.
You've called it slated, slatted, slotted.
Hey, the splinters I had to pick out of my
Everybody's
ass.
seen the pictures. Everybody's seen the pictures.
No, they want to see the real pictures. Talk to me.
That doesn't sound good at all. I don't think that's going to come out the way that you...
and I don't think you're going to edit it in a good fashion either.
Well, how am I going to edit it to make it sound better?
You'd have to wipe out the whole mailbag section just to make it okay.
All right, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
At the turn of the 20th century, rapid industrialization, urbanization, and political corruption were ravaging America. But soon, President Theodore Roosevelt and a diverse group of reformers known as progressives would fight back. Hi, I'm Lindsey Graham, the host of Wondery's podcast, American History Tellers. We take you to the events, times, and people that shaped America and Americans, our values, our struggles, and our dreams. In our latest series, we explore the Progressive Era, which came to be defined by Teddy Roosevelt and others who believed in a strong, active government that worked on behalf of all Americans rather than the privileged few. As the United States entered the 20th century, these progressives hoped to steer the nation in a bold new direction, to launch an era of reform to restore power to the people. Follow American History Tellers on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Experience all episodes ad-free and be the first to binge the newest season only on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Start your free trial today.